This is eCoffee with Experts, where marketers and founders share what's actually working in SEO, AI, and digital growth. Grab your coffee and fuel your mind as we chat with top minds about their wins, struggles, and lessons you won't find in a blog post. Brought to you by Digital Web Solutions, we bring real talk to help you grow your business, one episode at a time. Let's get started.
Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to your show, eCoffee with Experts. This is your host, Ranmay here. And today we have Robbie, who is the content and SEO lead at Second Nature with us. Hey, Robbie, how's it going?
Yeah, really good. Thanks. Really good. Thanks for having me.
Lovely. Robbie, before we move any forward, why don't you talk us through your journey a bit, how it all started, your transition from being a nutritionist to now SEO and content lead, and also a bit about your company, Second Nature, what you guys do, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay, nice. So I'm a registered nutritionist and I graduated with a master's in nutrition in 2017. I worked for a different provider, a different company after university to Second Nature, and then joined Second Nature at the end of 2018. So 7 years ago now. It was actually 7 years ago this week, which is crazy.
Nice.
I've aged quite a lot in that time. I started out as a health coach and nutritionist. So I'll obviously explain a bit more about Second Nature in a second. But we're a startup company. We're a health tech. We work with the NHS. We provide weight loss and type 2 diabetes services across the UK for the NHS, Vitality and consumer. And I started out as a nutritionist health coach, like working directly with our members through the app. So as a digital health coach, and as a startup, you have to kind of take on multiple roles as you go. And I've always been interested in writing, searching, producing content in different formats. I've always enjoyed that. And in startups, you get that opportunity no matter what your role is. Just kind of fortunately, things just like merged in together. I didn't really know what SEO was 5 years ago, to be honest. But yeah, I think it was about 3 years ago. We had a bit of a reshuffle in the business and I was moved into SEO and became a health writer. And for about 6 months, focused purely on SEO. And then also as time has evolved, I've also taken on multiple roles within the company. And now I'm more just a content lead, but that content includes SEO, email marketing, webinars, and in-house content writing for our program too. And now that I kind of I have many hats within the business essentially. And SEO is a big part of my role. But if we were breaking it down in days a week, I probably spend a day or two a week on SEO solely, and 3 to 4 days on email marketing, in-house content, strategy, things like that. So yeah, a life in startup is always very busy, but the novelty and variety keeps it interesting. So yeah.
Absolutely. How do you manage time, juggling across so many roles, which is kind of related to each other at some point, but still have their own unique, job responsibilities.
100%. I think fortunately we're a very well functioning startup, and we have, we go through like the traditional OKR cycles. So every 3 months we have very specific business goals and things we want to achieve within that 3-month period. And it keeps things very laser focused. So in terms of prioritizing my time, I'm able to, you do the basic things, right? Like blocking out time in calendars. So there's like the basic habits that come down to it, but it's also just a bit of a mindset of week to week, month to month, what your top 1 to 3 priorities are. So then each day I have to focus on the business as usual stuff and make sure that I'm like aligning my overall, like my day-to-day work with the goals of the business in that specific time point. So there's been cycles where I've had to focus more on product content because we've won a new NHS contract, let's say. So I have to produce a new program and do some research around specialist weight management services versus, this cycle really focused on consumer growth. So Robbie, you need to do more SEO. So things change and weave, and it's quite easy for me to hammer, like to laser focus on a specific set of things. And naturally that always means it's trade-offs, right? Your to-do list is never done. There's always a never-ending to-do list, but I think rather than stressing about all the things you need to do, you have to, as a human, understand you've got limited time. And by focusing on the most important things, that's your productivity. It's like, it's quite simple when you get into the practice of what is the most important thing I need to do today. Other things, we always use the metaphor, like let other fires burn. It's fine to let some fires burn. So yeah, that's how we focus on it really.
And some of, if you want to mention some of the automated systems that you have made as processes internally, that have helped you free up time and scale growth?
How we've used like AI, do you mean, to automate things?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of manual stuff, so even down to the simple things, right? So how I tend to write is I write on Google. I used Google Docs to write my articles, and then I would have to convert that document into HTML WordPress code, right? So that would be a very manual process. And obviously WordPress, you can kind of use it in the text interface, and it produces the code for you. But it was always very manual, and it took a lot of time. Now I can take a Google Doc, just the link, put it into Claude and say, convert this into HTML WordPress code. And it does it in a matter of seconds, within 5-10 seconds, copy paste. And that's probably reduced execution time of publishing time of an article down from 20 minutes to under 3, because it's
Yeah.
put it into WordPress, HTML code ready. And you can train Claude within a project to have specifics around what kind of code you want, how you want your jump to sections to look, all this stuff, right? So over time, it gets better. And so I think things like that. And if obviously a big part of my role is researching the topic, right? So if I'm trying to produce helpful content based around weight loss and medications and things like that, I have to do the research. Fortunately, with AI now, I can shortcut the sources. So I can get Perplexity or Claude to research the topic for me, summarize the key research, and then I can open up a dialogue with the AI tool to understand it in more depth. And if I need to go into the study to understand it in more detail and put it into more practical applications, I can. So there's if people aren't using AI, I don't know what they're doing. It's could not function without AI now, because it has probably doubled to trebled our production in terms of writing articles purely by shortcutting the unnecessary things that I used to do outside of the actual writing, if that makes sense. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff we're doing.
Lovely. And talking about content, in such a regulated, or let's say semi-regulated space like health, and nutrition, what are some
Yes.
of the unique challenges when it comes to content and, planning your overall SEO strategy and optimization?
I think it's I've made the mistake in the past of prioritizing ranking. So I think the challenges we faced in the past when we've had rankings crash and traffic drops and things like that is because I fell into the trap of producing articles I thought would do well on Google search, but not the most helpful. So when Google in the last year or two has really knuckled down in the health and wellness space to ensure that the content they're prioritizing on their SERPs and their AI overviews is coming from an authoritative voice to make sure it's medically sound, aligned with clinical guidelines, aligned with clinical evidence. So I think the main challenge is not losing sight of produce the most helpful content, not the best content to rank. So Google is doing a really good job now, and it's actually a really good algorithm now to ensure that if you search how to lose weight sustainably or whatever it is, Google will prioritize genuine helpful content and provide, more evidence from hopefully Second Nature, NHS, more authoritative sources rather than charlatans online who think they know what they're talking about when they don't. So I think that's the biggest challenge. It's the trap I've fallen into in the past, focusing on ranking rather than focusing on helping people. And that's the core focus now. That's the strategy. We keep it simple. I think I said when we were chatting before we started recording, our strategy is very simple. It's not complicated. We don't have this big, grand plan for mastering SEO. It's produce the North Star is produce the most helpful content. And then you focus on that's the most important thing. Everything else falls into place after that. So yeah.
Lovely. And what are your strategies for ranking on different LLMs and, within AI overviews now with, so much of split in how the search is happening? It's
Yeah.
no more only Google these days. So what is your strategy for that?
Again, it's nothing overly complicated. It's just there's probably tweaks to how the content is structured so that the crawlers can scan the content easily and understand it more easily. So there's been a few things we've introduced, more bullet points, more tables, illustrating data, illustrating comparisons. Broadly speaking, it hasn't changed dramatically, but we've just done a few tweaks to the structured data to ensure it's really clean and understandable for the crawlers, but also not just relying on block text. So ensuring that we're using, like block text, but also, yeah, some more key point sections with bullet points, tables, other ways of delivering the information that's really easy to scan. So, if you're doing a comparison of multiple products, AI, like the large language models, love being able to see a table and summarize that. So yeah, it's again nothing too complicated, but there was definitely some tweaks to the content and how it's delivered for sure.
Lovely, lovely. And understanding from an SEO standpoint, because how has it helped for you, especially, coming from a nutrition background now to kind of create content which will be consumed from that very perspective by the end audience, right? And having that, let's say, subject matter expert opinion from your own experience perspective, how has that helped with your overall SEO and content role as you evolved through your journey at Second Nature?
Do you mean in terms of having that nutrition background to start with?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, obviously, if you're going to produce helpful content, it has to come from a reliable source, right? So if I was just an SEO marketer, not a nutritionist, I probably wouldn't be the best person to write SEO content on nutrition. It has to come from an expert angle. SEO is something you can learn quite quickly, I think, in terms of the spine, the foundation. Whereas, like, in terms of my understanding of nutrition and health, I've been studying it. I've got a bachelor's degree in sports science. That was 3 years, a 2-year master's. Now I've been working for 9 years, 8 years in the field, and
Mhm.
I'm still learning a lot about that. And it takes a long time to
Yeah.
build. Have you heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect, the
No.
Dunning-Kruger curve? It's basically like, it's often shared in the world of science, where you come out of university and you think you know everything. So you think you're an expert because you've got a degree. But then as you enter in, the more you learn and you come into the world and you read more science and you read more papers and more perspectives, you suddenly come crashing down. And they call it the valley of discontent, or valley of despair, where you feel like you don't know anything because suddenly you're challenged and you're not the expert anymore. But then you gradually build back up, where you're learning different perspectives, and you come to a place where you feel very comfortable challenging your own assumptions, being wrong, and things like that. So I'm at a stage, fortunately, after nearly 10 years studying and working in this field, where
Mhm.
the content I'm producing, I'm confident after reading through it and writing it that it's a balanced perspective. But I also have the critical thinking ability to go, I'm not sure I'm right here. You pick up a bit of a sense on, I need to challenge this assumption because this is just an assumption I've had for a while. And then that helps, like, again, using AI tools is great because you can use AI tools to be your editor in content now. So as a team of one, I need AI tools. I do have a colleague, my co-founder, Mike, helps me by reviewing my articles, but I can do a step of review with AI by asking it to do an editorial review of this article, check for the clinical guidance, check for scientific accuracy, and double, like, just a sense check, right? Is everything, can we stand on, can we die on a hill on the recommendations we made here? So yeah, I think the background and expertise is massive and really helpful, because you have to be your own critic, essentially. And I think the more you're in this field, the more you start to question yourself, which is a good thing, Yeah.
Right. And Robbie, you have been a very strong advocate or an avid user of AI on a day-to-day basis, right? It's been close to 3 years now, more than 3 years. But end of 2025, getting into 2026, what are your expectations in terms of how AI is gonna reshape, or how it's gonna explode further from a content SEO, let's say digital marketing landscape in the next year?
I think, yeah, it's obviously already had like a big effect, right? Like, we've seen impressions go dramatically up in the last 2 years with, like, our traffic remaining static. The relationship between impressions and clicks is no longer there. So it's obviously becoming harder to get traffic to the website. But I
Yeah.
do think what it might filter is that we get more people with higher intent to our website. So I think what it will change slightly is a content strategy of, because obviously you've got the top, middle, bottom of funnel, right? So broadly speaking, historically, content wise, you would focus on all three elements of the funnel. So top of funnel, mid funnel, bottom of funnel. You'd focus on low, medium, high intent customers or potential customers for the future. Whereas you could argue now you'll probably see the lower to middle intent people never visiting your website, using the AI overviews, using the large language models. Whereas AI might create a natural funnel for you where the high intent people want to come to your website to read your article because they need that real specific answer to their question that maybe they don't fully trust AI and they still click through to the sources. So I think the changing landscape is, who knows what's going to happen, really. I think like all I would say is like you just have to roll with it. Like I think for people, I've seen a lot of people online like denying using AI with writing or with research. And I think for sure, if you're a writer, you should still be writing. Absolutely. But you shouldn't be afraid to use AI to help. And you have to understand the world we live in now and just adapt. Like if you don't adapt, you'll die. So like we have to adapt. I don't know what's going to happen. But broadly speaking, I think it's becoming harder and harder to attract people to your website for sure. That will probably continue. But the positive message would be, if my hypothesis is correct that we might see more higher intent people still coming to the website and AI creates this natural funnel for you, then, okay, so how are you tailoring your content on your website to cater to those people who do eventually get to you? So yeah, but who knows? I mean, yeah, I've seen loads of dramatic headlines like SEO is dead and things like that. And I think that's obviously not true, but people love a clickbait post, right? So people will say anything to get people clicking on their post.
Yes,
So yeah.
absolutely. I mean, we have been listening about SEO being dead for more than 2 decades now.
Yeah, right.
Not sure when it's going to happen. Finally, Robbie, given your background, given your expertise in this niche, for our audiences, if you could give one piece of advice of, from a content strategy standpoint to people who are entering the health and nutrition space, what would that be?
It's just focused on producing the most helpful content from a user's perspective. So never don't miss the wood for the trees, right? I think too many SEO strategies that they try and do everything. They try and focus on backlinks, on PR, on ranking, on the technical side. I think the core of any content strategy should be, how am I helping the person who's reading this? So when you start from that vision, everything else falls into place. Like, of course, there's going to be loads of multiple tips about how to get backlinks, how to share your content, how to write in a certain way that is good for crawlers and getting ranked and all that stuff. Like, those are the 10% of SEO that's important. The 90% of SEO that's important is, are you producing good, helpful content? Simple. And after 3 years working in SEO, that it's always come down to that. Every Google update is garnered to improving their algorithm to ensure they're sharing the most helpful content. So we have to align with the algorithm, which is a positive algorithm. It makes sense. Google's just trying to provide people with the most helpful answer to their questions and problems. So you have to be the one providing that content. So that's it, I think.
Lovely, Robbie. Thank you so much for taking out time to do this with us. Really appreciate it, man.
Welcome.
And if our audiences want to reach out to you, how would they do that?
Probably like LinkedIn is probably best, I'd say. Like, I do have an Instagram, but I'm not very active. And my Instagram is more tailored to outdoor adventure and exercise. So probably not relevant. But yeah, LinkedIn is probably best. So just like my name, Robbie Puddick, and you'll see that I work for Second Nature. Feel free to message me, whatever it is. And yeah, again, I'm not that active on social media, but it's probably the best way, LinkedIn, for sure.
Lovely. Thanks once again, Robbie. Cheers, man.
Nice one.